Hello, glorious people. My goodness, I'm so excited to be back, and I know we have had a few tech issues, and I hope you can see me because I can't see myself on the main screen in the middle. So, Flea, can you give me a thumbs up? Beautiful. So, we're just going to go with the flow today, and welcome back to another episode of Age of Awæcnian Soulful Stories Unveiled. And my goodness, we've had such amazing guests for our beautiful podcast series and also prep for our summit. So it has been so wonderful to connect with amazing people. And Flea, what have you been loving about today and these amazing connections and insights?
I was just going to say, yes, I can see you fine. You're perfectly visible to me on my end, but my computer also has been stuffing up. So, we're just going with the flow right now. I can see you on the phone in front of me. So yes, we're all good. I will say you probably can't see yourself because you were on Zoom before and that might still be taking your camera. But this is the world of tech and what we do when we share in this way, and what I love about the ability to be able to share this way is to be able to connect with people from other places that you probably wouldn't otherwise meet unless by chance. And here we are, we get to meet people from all around the world, hear their stories, feel the stories and how much it resonates with us. And that's generally what I'm here for. I love the connection and just seeing how alike we all are and how much we come together when we share those stories.
Yeah, such a powerful tool to connect. And our next beautiful guest, my goodness, I met her a couple of weeks ago at a beautiful summit, and I was just really blown away by Evelyn's story. And Evelyn Adonis is a multi-six-figure soul and strategy mentor to visionary entrepreneurs that wish to elevate their business performance and transition onto their wealthy side of spirituality. And the Empowerment Priestess is her other beautiful name, and she was just dressed in this pink, glittery, high vibe power suit. And I was like, yes, I need to talk to this woman. And I waited right till the end because I was talking to another beautiful friend of ours, and I think you worked with beautiful Samantha J as well. And I was like, I need to talk to Evelyn. I just feel like the fact that she's a priestess, I feel this priestess wisdom as well. And I really loved connecting with you and over the weekend as well. And I was like, wow, what a journey you have had in such rapid transformation in such a short amount of time. And the growth that you've had in your journey, stemmed from hardship and a lot of I suppose, dark, shadowy places that many of us experience and some people are continuing to live through right now. But you're just such a testament to when choosing yourself, choosing the highest pathway and looking at the options and the diverse range of actually how abundant we are, that you can transform your life. So welcome, Evelyn.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so, Evelyn, I know you've probably shared your journey in many different spaces, but just for our audience, I know a couple of years ago, the woman that you are now was not the woman who you were before. And I suppose the depth and richness of your experience was something that just hit my heart. And I was like, wow, what a powerful journey. I'd love for you to share a little bit more about where you've come from and yeah, just who you are.
Yeah, sure. So, so different to just a couple of years ago. Everything was different. Absolutely every single area of my life was different. So 2 years back, I was in a toxic relationship. I had a history of actually being in abusive situations without realizing it at the time. I was diagnosed with a surprise tumor, which I wasn't expecting. I'd gone into emergency for something else, and then they found this in the scan instead. I was undergoing cancer scans, one scan after another, multiple surgeons trying to tell me that, like, you should just cut this out in 4 days' time. It was definitely one of the lowest periods of my life, like by definition, probably actual rock bottom. And it was at that time, of course, I was still running my spiritual business, but what I was going through takes so much focus and energy that what was left for my business was like this much. And that's when it hit me that I was sitting there putting together my spreadsheets, and all I had managed to scratch together for that month was $130. And I needed that eye-opening moment. I needed that staring me loudly in the face, that after a month of like trying my best to stay afloat mentally, professionally, I needed that moment of seeing just $130 written down to really, that was the smack in the face that I needed in order to actually create much bigger change in my life. And that was very much the catalyst. It was all of those pretty heavy experiences, but they were all happening at once. So whilst all of these, the tumor diagnosis, the cancer scans, the abusive marriage, I chose to separate and leave that marriage amongst all of that going on. So I made that decision realizing that there's a chance I may have cancer. And if I do, I would still rather do that alone. And that was the beginning of something huge for me. That was the beginning of me actually genuinely choosing myself, like truly actually choosing my own divinity, choosing my intuition, choosing my inner child, choosing my power. I had not really done that before, and absolutely not to this degree. So that was the catalyst that just sent everything spinning in a genuinely wonderful, productive, healthy, super abundant direction. But it had to be, for my particular journey, it had to come in super compounded for me to like smell the smelling salt.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I know when people go through these, it was like, I suppose, an awakening at the same time, like life-changing trajectory and these big catalysts. And sometimes we need the compounding things to then stretch us to the edge to go, wow, I actually need to fully shift. And for others, it doesn't have to be that hard. And for others, it might take a little bit longer or like bit by bit. And this is why we love having different guests on, because when we share these stories, it's everyone goes through their own hardships and goes through their own traumas and things like that. But it's deciding that I'm going to make a change, and the choice, which has been a theme actually today, that then allows us to then take the next steps.
Yeah.
And I know, Flea, we were talking about choice early today, and there's probably some very similar resonances in Evelyn's story to yours that I know. You know, you had to make some big choices in your life too, right?
Yeah. And it's funny, as you were talking, the first card that came out for this session was the Hermit card, and I was like, oh, okay, it can't be one of those. Like, I'm looking at this beautiful, cheery person in front of me, and it's like it's going to be a sad story. I don't want it to be a sad story, but as I'm looking at this card, like a deeper meaning came into it for me with what you were saying. Then that choice to do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's not even a choice. It is the awakening that you are having. It's like, without that realization that you'd prefer to do it alone, you quite potentially could have stayed in that relationship. But it's that knowing inside that, no, like, if I'm going to die, I'd prefer to do it, like with me and my soul. And it takes us sometimes those catalytic moments to go, I do have to listen to me. I have to do what's right for me, because otherwise you just continue this cycle and that resentment and hatred, I guess, that builds up from not making the choice, not
Yeah,
choosing you.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
And I really believe a lot of health issues stem from ignoring yourself at really deep levels. Like, I never for a moment, with all the, my first awakening was almost 15 years ago. I've had a number of them since, probably up to maybe 4 intense full blown rebirths at this point. Most recent one was actually just a couple of months ago. But I think that a lot of health issues, a lot of dysfunction that we experience in this 3-dimensional material reality aren't from this 3-dimensional material reality. So I knew straight away when I was undergoing these diagnoses and these scans, I knew I'm not going to solve it here in the 3rd dimension because this isn't where it came from. So I had to take myself to higher realms and begin doing the work up there so that then I could sit back and watch the results drop into the 3D, which is how I do a lot of business. That's how I do my business work as well. So not for a minute did I think, okay, well, if I just apply the right ointments, everything will get better. I was aware that I had to go so deep into the traumas that actually were being ignored in my emotional body, my mental body, my ethereal body. Those being ignored were beginning to scream for my attention. So I love, Marie, that you pointed out some people don't need quite as brutal a journey. Some people don't need to go through such compounded traumas. And it's just a matter of like, how willing are you to listen when there's the whisper that comes along? And I wasn't listening to the whispers. I wasn't listening to the grunting. I wasn't listening to the firm tone. I had to listen because it got to the point of my body screaming for my attention. So at that point, like, I'm really not going to risk whatever comes after cancer. So at that point, the screaming was finally enough for me to begin to listen and go inwards and inwards, which is hermiting in a sense, but the journey is like really traveling in so that you can grab all the answers and then begin to come back out as a much, like if you do hermit, or anything, absolutely anything that hibernates for a minute, it will come back far stronger than it did before. The fact that it's come back at all is the strength in itself. So yeah, I've learned heaps by going just journeying inwards.
What came through
Yeah.
then, Fleet? I was going to say that.
I actually wrote on that card, it's a reflection. So like with the hermit, it's like, it's not so much, you're stuck and you're on your own and it's all by yourself. Like solitude is the theme of it, but it's the reflection. Like only you can go within to reflect on the situations in which our 3D reality exists. Like we created it, so it goes within. And we were speaking earlier about that 4D and 5D reality. Like it does exist. Yes, we do need to go into it because it's in that mind state where we realize and we fully acknowledge and accept ourselves as the creator of our reality. And that there is the authority, which was the other card that was underneath it. It's that sense of self and that reason and that solution to everything. And it's so, it just has to be done.
Yeah.
And it does eventually hit us, whether it's a midlife crisis. And I went down the route of, okay, logically, all of this could just be a midlife crisis. And it's like, okay, well, if it is a midlife crisis, why? Why is it that most people hit their 30s, 40s, 50s and just go, this isn't my life and I don't want it anymore, and or they're hit with illness and sickness to the point that their bodies crumble and they're forced to reconsider their life and to redirect it. Like these are powerful moments that we have every day, and it is those tiny little signs that you were talking about, Evelyn, those little nudges, the whispers that it's time we start paying attention to them, because it is that whisper that is our 4D, 5D connection in this 3D reality of how we get to live.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's been one of the biggest takeaways, is me realizing that after doing a lot of things the hard way, so after achieving, like I've achieved really like phenomenal results in my life, but I've done them all through such struggle. And then upon realizing that, like, why am I doing it the hard way? Like these things have been achievable, period, because I achieved them. But why am I doing it the blood, sweat and tears way? And then I decided, I was having this conversation with God, and I just decided I'm going to listen more than I've ever listened before. So there's no need for screaming. There's no need for the yelling, or there's not even any need for the firmness. You can whisper to me now and I'm listening. Not only that, you can whisper and deliver with such grace, because I'm actually ready for that, for a life of grace. And when you acknowledge that you are ready for that upgrade, it arrives, and you immediately begin to notice everything from, you notice the upgrades and the opportunities, and they're happening with such tenderness and gentleness. And it's just saying yes, and then stepping into it, yes, stepping into it, yes, stepping into it, and embodying such a flow of God, really, versus having to be shaken onto the right direction time and time again.
Yeah, so powerful. And it's like this deep surrendering, and letting go of control, letting go of outcomes, expectations, the stories we tell ourselves. And I feel this is a beautiful part of the feminine energy and essence that I think we as women and men, that we forget the power of that surrender, the power of the balance and the harmony of the feminine and the masculine within self in that union,
Yeah.
which, like you said, the parts of your past self of like struggle, we've got to have hard, you can only achieve success because of what we've been told and what we see in society. And this society we live in is such a patriarchal, very masculine, go, 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 do. And I think as women, we've had to, fit that culture. And myself as a mum as well, I noticed that in the mothering and the nurturing, you're always putting other people in front of yourself. And so when you mentioned that screaming, that internal voice, I really resonated with that, because I think another layer of my awakening process was through not listening to my body after health and after miscarriages, and forcing my body into just, I've rested enough, I've grieved enough, it's time to go back to work. And my body and my mind and my soul was like, stop, you can't do this. And I hadn't allowed myself to rest. I hadn't allowed myself to actually stop and be with my body, and to truly be with my emotions, and in that time be with that loss and that grieving process, because that I'd never stopped. I went straight. Now I'm a Virgo as well, so having an Asian mother and other expectations, I was like, okay, I've got to get the A grades, and I'm going to get my master's in education. I've got my daughter, and at the same time I had a baby, I was doing my master's, and the overachiever in me was doing like 2-3 jobs while having a baby and studying and doing this. And then my body just couldn't. And so I think your message, and the, I suppose, collective message here, is to allow that surrender and that rest to happen, because ease, grace, and flow is possible if we listen.
And if we allow it as well. So part of it is just the listening, but the other part is actually allowing it to happen, because I fully understand and believe now that everything that you've ever wanted is right there and it is available to you. But we have layered and layered and layered so much limitation and conditioning that we're making it impossible for us to experience what's already there. So abundance is already there, but we get in the way. Love is already there, but we get in the way. So part of it is listening so that it arrives quite gracefully instead of a brutal thump. But the other part of it is allowing it when it is there, allowing for it to even happen, allowing yourself to receive, which is also part of the feminine, the divine femme.
Yeah, so beautiful. That piece around receiving is also such a beautiful lesson as well, and that allowance and acceptance. I love where this thread is going, because I feel as well like in order to receive and accept the gifts that are around us, noticing the opportunities, like you said, it's all there if we allow, surrender, and see what's there. And I know particularly beautiful Flea and I, in a lot of work we've done with ourselves, each other, the people that we work with, it's like, okay, surrendering, tapping into those emotions. And then we've got like all of these beautiful gifts that open up through connections, through people, through opportunities. And it's like, okay, trust, allow that receivership to come through, and trust that everything is as it's meant to be. And I know that's hard sometimes. So if you're listening in, leaning into that trust, leaning into that faith, it's so easy and part of who we are, but it's also hard because the material world, like you said, around us can sometimes, you know, if you look in your bank account, maybe it's not what it wants to be, or if you are in a home, maybe it's not the home that you want it to be, and we can get stuck. And so when you work with people, Evelyn, that are kind of like they resonate with these ways of being and embodying, but they still feel stuck, what's something that you love to share with them to help them reassess, reevaluate, reflect, to become unstuck?
So it's actually, you touched on this much earlier today about choices, but I tell my clients that who you're being today, right now, is a decision. Like, you've decided to be this here and now, just as I've decided to be this here and now. You can decide to be different. You can decide that everything that you've done that got you up until this point, and it worked up until this point, can finally be retired, like expire that way of being, so that you can engage and embody or install new software essentially, and then become the Evelyn 2.0, Flea 2.0, Marie 2.0. But that is ultimately, it's a decision, because we need to choose the identity that we're going to avatar during our time on earth. And what we're currently doing is the identity that we had already decided on. So none of this is happening to me, poor me, what have I done to myself? All of this happened by design, because I decided that that's who I am. I decided that my opinion wasn't as important as the opinion of my abusive partners. For example, I decided that my dreams were too confronting to speak out loud inside certain relationships. I decided that I would rather have friendship circles that don't think I'm outrageous and delusional. So I've decided in so many ways to play small and dim down until I stopped and I made other decisions where now there's no way that would be something that I decide for myself. So when you decide rather on a higher, more elevated identity for yourself here in the 3D, all of your 5D, your 11D, all of your help basically arrives to quickly manifest that for you. I'm a huge believer, this is wild, I'm a huge believer that manifestations are basically that. A huge believer. When I see people doing 28 days for this and 30 days for that, I'm like, what's taking so long? Like, I genuinely believe that. That's how I'm wired now. I'm like, what's with the delay? Because I've noticed that when I do the work at a soul level and I'm going as profound as I can, it's not just surface level decisions up here. Like, I decided to just start working out, or I decided to cut cheese out of my diet. Like, when I make deeply profound decisions that are about the identity I'm embodying on this earth during my human time here, such big shifts happen, because that is a divine collaboration at that point. When you're making really deep decisions, like soul level, at the core of your heart kind of decisions, it's not happening here, it's happening out there and here. So now you're working in divine union between you and God. You're signing brand new contracts. And the minute you sign a contract, this is the same with my clients, all my high ticket clients, the minute you sign up on that contract, their text messages are different, their stories online are different, their reels are coming out different. They are immediately elevated because they chose a higher frequency, and we're doing this for ourselves as well. So when we decide deeply to embody a much higher elevated identity, everything around us will come down to support that decision that we've made, if it is true and if it is deep, not just a surface head level whim.
Yeah. That true
So
and deep really just hit home. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that I feel like a lot of people like to sit with the idea of, oh, yes, this is what I want, but don't really know how to go, is it really what I want? Like, at what level to actually, I saw something the other day where they explained, like, to really manifest, you actually have to sit with the shit of what you want. So if you want $1,000,000, how does it really feel when all of your friends abandon you or use you for your money or all of these type of things? Like, to really sit with what it feels like to be completely separate from what you know now, because your reality wouldn't be the same. And
Mhm.
to, I guess, walk the multiple pathways, walk the multiple pathways that then, show, I guess, some of those not so pleasant outcomes of what it is that we are actually manifesting. Like, some people are like, oh yeah, I just want a new house. And it's like, okay, yeah, but do you know the responsibility of a new bigger house, the rates, the payments, like what type of job you might need to maintain it, and like the environment in which you want to live? Like, do you actually know the community, and have you really thought in depth about what this manifestation is? And it's easy to go, oh yeah, I want to be a millionaire and change the world. Well, what does that really look like? What is the
Mm.
hate that comes with being a public figure? Because that's what you actually have to embody. Like, you have to
Yep.
want that as well and know that you can handle it. Because
Yep.
otherwise it's just a fear of success, which I know sits with me. I'm just like, I really don't want to be successful. Why? And it's like, well, because that then means I'm more subjected to crowds that are toxic. And I don't want that in my life. So I know at a deep soul level, I'm preventing my ultimate success.
Mm.
And it's like, how do you stop that? Like, the knowing I'm doing it intentionally because I know the fear, and I just haven't found the proof or the evidence in my life yet to suggest it could be otherwise.
Yeah, can I share? This is so interesting because I feel like I do have now like really close contact with multiple millionaires in my life, and I've had quite a different experience. It has really reshaped my relationship with wealth, with money, with manifesting. Um, I grew up, if we start from the beginning, I grew up as a poor immigrant child arriving to Australia at age 3. My family arrived with me, obviously. Like, at age 3, my parents didn't know a word of this language. We really started from ground zero. We started from scratch. So I have a lot of respect in my heart for families that are really starting from ground zero. Like, I used to even tell my clients, if you were born into an English speaking family, don't take that for granted. Like, you're a step ahead. Like, it takes so much work to even meet people where they were just already born. Now we're starting from scratch. There were beautiful things that came of that. Obviously, I became one of the top students in almost everything I've ever done. So it became very natural for me to be super focused, eyes open, ears open, just taking notes like crazy. I'm super absorbent. I'm thinking of I'm an education sponge. Like, I'm super ready to absorb everything and alchemize, turn it, weave it into some kind of magic. And what's happened is I grew up with a relationship. I'm from a Latin American background. And I know that with a lot of cultures, there's some pretty negative money programming that comes with just where you were born. So programs like, I have to bust my ass for $1. Like, you got to really bust your hump for that much. And you've got to work 100-hour weeks. Like, you've got to work ridiculously again for that much. And no one's going to respect you working that much. And no one's really going to value what you're doing. So all of these things was running through my DNA at an ancestral level, because it's all that my family had known, their parents, their parents, their parents. And I come along and I'm just going to do it again until I decide I'm actually not. It ends with me, and we're kicking off new programs now. So it did end with me. And now I'm like hanging out with millionaires who have taught me quite the opposite about money. Like, when I'm around them, I've got goosebumps with gratitude right now. But I've actually learned, I thought, okay, well, then in my past, I thought, okay, well, rich people must be greedy. They must be assholes. They must
Mm.
be out of integrity. They must be really sly and sneaky. They must be doing illegal stuff, probably. I just had all these assumptions, which are not actually the case. And through my own healing and healing and healing and healing, I've now landed in a bubble where I'm so grateful to see that in my programming now, the millionaires that I know have really taught me that, like, people with money can do so much more good. They can do so much more good than someone without money. And they know that. And that's their goal. And now that's my goal. I can help more people if I have more money. If someone needs me, like, Ev, I'm in a bind, I am useless to them if I also have $300 in my account.
Mm.
And no one, and here's what I tell my clients, and I'm a straight shooting mentor, but this is what I tell my clients: you're not going to get an award for that when you die. You will not get brownie points for sacrificing yourself and playing the martyr. And I was born in a dirt house, which I was, but no one's going to give me brownie points and gold stickers for that on my last day on earth when I'm in my deathbed. No one's going to give me any brownie points for that. I'm going to get all the fulfillment that my heart has ever wanted by stepping into my bigness, by really owning my magnitude, by really genuinely like embodying my greatness. And through doing that, you can teach others how to do the same. And it's actually the wealthiest people in my life at the moment that are really like the beacon for me. They are paving the way, because I did have really similar, I did think money was wrong, bad, and awful because my parents didn't have them and I saw them struggling and I demonized money for it and rich people. Why wouldn't they help if we're struggling? But you really can help if you have the money. You can't when you don't have the money. And when your heart is in the right place, as I believe all of our hearts are, I really believe when your heart's in the right place, you can do incredibly powerful things with the money that is already available to you right here and now. Like, there is so much money that is trying to make its way to every single one of us. And earlier when I said we have to allow it, we're the ones, can I swear on this?
Yes.
A little.
Sure.
We're the ones C blocking. We're the ones C blocking the money, because we're the ones C blocking everything: love, abundance, time freedom. Like, we're the ones clouding things for ourselves, because it is there. It's actually the truth of this existence. Remember that we are divinity incarnate. We are that. All that majesty, all that beautiful freedom, all that liberation, the sovereignty, that's already there. It's not anything that we need to work towards and pine for and battle towards. It's literally just there. So we need to allow it.
Yeah, that just landed so beautifully.
Mm.
And it's through the heart and those deeper questions and going within and allowing yourself to also embody that and to, what I like to call it, is become devoted. And some people may think it's obsession or ambition, but it's another form of love, like loving yourself so deeply to claim the goddess self, which is what I did last year, and to even imagine and allow myself to think, wow, I am a freaking goddess and my family is royalty and the people that I get to connect with are part of my tribe. And
Yes.
we have contracted, like, every single person is a gift. When we walk the earth, our feet are kissing the earth and blessing every person, every child, every human, whether they're not aware or not. Our energy gets to bless them and them us if
Mm.
we choose it. And
Absolutely.
it was so interesting, I think, in that mastermind with you there, Evelyn, that it was a couple of weeks ago, a little bit longer maybe. That was the first time I claimed such big money. Like, and I've said it to Flea before privately, but to actually, and I've said it to my husband as well, I'm like, we are here to hold trillions. And to claim, like, millions is great, billions is great. But to actually be freaking brave enough to go, you know what? I am going to be the vessel through whatever connections and golden threads. And since that day, the next day, some opportunity came up. I
Yeah.
find myself in, speaking to people in companies that I never thought I would be speaking to, who work with billion-dollar industries, and weaving conversations where Flea and I are now, like, creating things for companies that are making such impact in the world and supporting them through education, through the things and the gifts that we get to provide and support them. And it's like, that has been ease, grace, and flow, but a lot of deep devotion and trust in self, in God, goddess, universe, source, whatever it is. But even to get to this point and be so anchored in that faith, some people think
Mm.
I'm delusional. Or some people think, wow, you are freaking courageous and brave and inspirational. And it's that piece again, flee, I think, the fear of the polarities of the
Mm.
bigness that, yes, and I know, Evelyn, I've been following you. You've got such a range of followers, and you will have people that will love you, and there will be people that just are not your people, that will not get you or hate you or envy. And embodying that bigness within your heart, I think part of the process is a part of you that learns to let that go, even though it still might hurt.
Mm.
You want to help them, but it's a fine line. And like, what's your experience with that polarity?
Yeah, so I have noticed like the more that we expand into our greatness and the more that we claim and own that unapologetically, it's going to agitate some people. And I've watched that people that I really had initially connected with a while back, but as I've gone and just I've had one growth spurt after another professionally, just in terms of the clients I deal with, um, all of those things I'm just noticing. And even just mindset, when I jump online and I'm talking about $55,000 clients, I woke up this morning, tapped into a $110,000 client. Like when I speak into these things alongside um, people that I've known for a few years, but are not, I don't want to say hitting those goals, but are not experiencing those particular results or those client, because they're relationships to me. Like the higher we go, the
Mm.
tighter we get. How I feel. So this is hard. This is why I was saying as well, it's hard work. Like the higher we go, the more I'm going to let you into my heart, where the actual fucking juice is. Like that's where the magic is. Like if I open the gates here, you have access to the codes that do put you on the wealthy side of spirituality, which is my ultimate goal, because I truly believe that everyone that I deal with, everyone I attract, everyone that I'm in collaboration with, yourselves as well, I truly believe you're here for such transformational, life changing work, and that shit ain't free. It's not, because your gifts don't need to be gifted. Your gifts don't need to be
Mm.
gifted. Your gifts are no different to the surgeon with the knife that needs to get paid for helping someone cut out an infection. Your gifts are no different to the person that needs to crunch the numbers so that your affairs are in order, because that's not your, we don't love that, crunching numbers, but those, you're supposed to be rewarded and fulfilled the same as every other vocation. But just because our vocation happens to be deemed intangible or mystical, that doesn't make it any less valuable, certainly not in my eyes. And therefore, that's the reality that I'm experiencing. I feel worthy as fuck over what I do, what I bring. And because of that, my bank account reflects how I feel about myself these days. So I'm aware that if I spot someone that I know that is receptive and ready for certain change, I'm aware that a 10-minute conversation, I know I can drop very specific nuggets in a 10-minute conversation and they're off in a different trajectory. Now that's worth something to me. And it's worth something to them as well. So part of the issue, in us, the whole spiritual community, not really valuing our work, it doesn't really help people. It's in me valuing my work.
Mm.
It's in me valuing myself, in me valuing the specific set of codes that I have. That's what's worth it for others as well. That's how they get to step into their gifts. That's how they get to experience true fulfillment, true time freedom. That's how they get all of that. Only if I show them as the template that I am, and others are showing me as the template that they are, only through passing it on can they then also be in their bigness for others. We do not help anyone being the smallest flame in the room. Like that helps no one.
Mm.
So it's a true gift to actually be so unapologetically big. And that doesn't mean you have to be obnoxiously loud. I know my silence makes people tremble. So it's just a matter of being in, owning your greatness and just letting that speak volume so that other people understand, what if I went for it as well? What if I just go for it the way that Evelyn goes for it? And I want them to entertain that thought process. I want them to go, what if I do? I'm going to try it. Yes, I can try it. And then do it again and do it again and do it again. Because some people make a move and then they stop and they feel like that's enough. So it's really, this life it's all about momentum. It's all about understanding where your value is, what your worth is. Your entire 3D reality is simply a reflection of what's going on in here. We know that. But it means we've got to tidy this up. Because if we're not surrounded by the lushness that we really want to be experiencing, the comfort that we really want for ourselves, our families, my 2 little doggies, my pets, whatever, my partner, like, if that's not being reflected, then we got to go and clean up the programs, the conditioning, all the layers and layers that are stopping us from bursting through the veil. Or it's actually the other way around. That's stopping abundance, love, all that high level magic from bursting through the veil into us, because it's just literally here. It's on the other side. It is right there, inches from our face, trying to burst through and smack us with another 50,000, smack us with 250,000, smack us with 4 days off every single week. It's trying to do that. It's trying to do that. And we're going, nah, because it's got to be harder. Nah, because it's got to take longer. And when we clean up those programs, stuff happens super fast, super fly, super amazing, super graceful. It all just starts to, life gets so much easier, but it sounds like delusion, which I love that you brought up before, Marie. It sounds like delusion, but this is also why tribe is so important. Just hanging only the do's.
Hit the nail on the head so many times there. I see in pictures. So when you were talking about the gift, and you know, like that idea of it being a gift for you, straight away it's like in my mind, my bathtub popped into my head, because I've always said, like, you can't buy a gift for someone that isn't for them. Like, it can't be something that's for other things, like, unless it's something that's really going to give that value to their life. Like, it's something like that. And I don't know why, but the idea of the bathtub, and it's like, it can't be a gift if you have to give it away, because then it's not a gift to you. And that, I don't know, in my head it makes so much more sense. And it's like, I can't give away my gift, because otherwise it's not a gift to me.
Exactly.
And that value is something that I've never really seen. But I guess growing up, I also came from the poor home, and you know, like, things were stolen in order to be gifted to us. So it was always like, you've got to give back, you've got to give back. Like, when you've got something, give it to someone else, because they're going to be without. And it was this constant cycle of, no matter what I got, I had to give it. So if I receive something from somebody else, I have to give them something in return. And that idea has really, like, sat with me and probably kept me down for quite some time. I'm like, that money worth is stuck in that idea that this gift is something you have to give. And it's like, it's not, though. The gift is in sharing that you, like, in the sharing it with yourself, really.
Absolutely. It's just in the ownership of, as well, that I love that everybody has such different gifts. Like, we all have such a different, we even have a different way of being psychic. I mean, some of us have these 3 different clairs. I might have these 3 or 4 different clairs. Like, we all have such beautiful, unique Rubik's cubes of our own gifts. But that doesn't mean that, that doesn't mean that I need to sit there for an hour and give someone free insights, free downloads, free guidance. I don't have to do any of that. But I am also aware that in me doing that, that's invaluable. In me doing that and being able to change the trajectory of someone's life in me, I know I can do it in 10 minutes. So can you imagine what I can do in 60 minutes when I've got a collaborative goal with my client or with whoever I'm sitting with? I'm aware that's so valuable to spin their mind, body, and soul in a whole new trajectory. And so it comes back to really our worth, like really coming to understand that you're paying me because of what I am capable of uniquely, like the specific and distinct codes that I have is going to change your life. That's ultimately what you're paying me for. Like we all have such unique gifts, but when you see the value in your own gifts, you stop over delivering, you stop undercharging, you stop performing for love, you stop the doing. You stop trading your time for money. I don't charge anything by the hour. I charge it by the outcome. I charge it by the impact. That's why I charge the way I charge as well, because that's why people get what they get out of it.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I've heard this beautiful way of looking at the exchange of gifts, services, the outcomes, which is really beautiful for the listeners to also hear and receive, because I think that mentality of wages and you're worth this much for this many hours, which is very part of the industrial age revolution, which we are now breaking out of because we are in an age of Aquarius, age of innovation, age of abundance, because it's a birthright, and to fully reclaiming that. So talking to people like yourself and the other amazing guests, and what Flea and I also share in our other shows and podcasts, this wisdom that gets to come through, even in a podcast like this hour that we've had with you, with all of our guests, is so invaluable. And this is the power. This is the power of storytelling. So, imagine then if people get to work with you one-on-one, or people that get to work with us in what we get to do with our gifts, or whoever it is, like when you connect at that heart level and really come at that place of collaboration, like, my goodness, it's amazing to see what gets to transform. And I love that we've tapped into this. And this is quantum. This is, like you mentioned, going within, and I was going to say it earlier, but this is quantum healing, quantum growth, and this is the speed that it gets to happen. And I've noticed, particularly within the last 6 to 8 months, there has definitely been a quickening process. And like you said, your belief in sharing that it can happen like that. I've seen it. I've manifested, and things have appeared in different parts that have been aligned where I'm like, oh, that just how I thought of that. And then look, within a couple of hours later, that person just messaged me, or this connection started happening, or it was just easy to, go and chat to that person. And now that there's a connection there, like the gifts
You
and the
did it with me the other day, Marie.
yeah,
It was a
definitely.
literal. I thought to myself, I went, "Oh no, my bank is in a negative. What am I going to do? Like, I haven't done this." And then, oh no, it's not. It was within moments of thinking it, and then it's like, I just decided we need to pay ourselves first a little bit. So we've just done this, and it's like, oh yeah. I had thought to myself, it's like, oh, I don't want to jump. I don't want to jump the gun. Like, wait until everything's in the clear, and then I'll celebrate myself. But it was within an instant of thinking it. It's like, maybe that's the way to do it. And it was within that it happened. And it was like, oh, yes, thank you. Okay. I get it now. I'm listening. I'm paying attention,
Yeah.
even though you're stubborn in here.
Mhm.
But that instance and that quickening and the quantum and like that connectedness, we do start becoming more connected to each other, connected to what's happening, with what's happening in our local sphere, but also collectively, globally. I know we've only got a few minutes left, but with tapping into now the collective energy, Evelyn, and these gifts that when we obviously acknowledge, witness, honor ourselves, and we tap into more of this, we also, on a collective level, tap into creating more for everybody by choosing ourselves. And this is the beautiful dance that gets to happen. I'd love for you to share, I suppose, your insights on this quickening, what you've noticed, I suppose, in your realms. And because, like you said, 2 years, like that's probably one of the quickest transformations I've heard. People normally say give it like 3 to 5 years, but it's like, why? I've in the last year of choosing entrepreneurship and choosing myself, a lot of the things that Flea and I have created, no one's ever done before. In the connections we've done, and people are like, wow, look at what you've created. And I'm like, yeah, it's time because it's happening. So I'd love to share, for you to share your insights on this collective growth and wisdom for what's coming when we get to choose ourselves and choose these paths.
Yeah, I think that things can happen really fast for anyone at any time, and it just comes down to willingness. So it's a combination of the willingness and then the decision to. So everyone moving forward, and I do feel like the willingness is increasing. I feel like it's almost like the trauma and the stubbornness is flaking away, and people are a little more willing to experience a higher and greater version of themselves. I don't ever speak to my audience or my clients in terms of ready. Are you ready to this or that? Because I truly don't believe in ready. You're just willing or you're not. And that makes people really accountable, and they realize they go from saying, oh, I just haven't been ready. They realize that, no, I just haven't been willing. So what did you expect? And that happens in love. It happens with finances. You just haven't been willing to receive $400,000 this year. So what did you expect? Like, oh, when you put it like that. So part of it is I feel like from a collective, I feel like everyone is developing such a much clearer understanding of the traumas that have been holding them back. There's a lot more willingness for all of that to begin flaking away. Because there's more willingness, they're really making like the actual deep, profound decision. Well, I'm going to go for it then, and choosing a new identity and actually taking themselves into a whole new level of self and business that they had ever experienced before. Because especially in this spiritual community, like, you can choose to be a healer and like charge X amount and get stuck there for a long time, or you can choose to be a healer, truly recognize your gifts, and then immediately be divinely compensated for what you're truly bringing.
Oh, I love that reframe, willingness and the divinely compensated.
Yeah.
Because like we've all said, we are abundant. We are abundance. And it's right there.
Yep.
And when we allow ourselves, like all the themes, allowing ourselves to receive that, then it just gets to flow more easily, which is beautiful. Oh
You
my
can, when we
goodness.
let ourselves, in our gifts, when we allow ourselves, we can take people to such phenomenal heights. We can take someone that saw themselves this way in life and have them operating in life, love, and business up here, experiencing this quality and this caliber of human existence, which is vastly different to where they began. And if we have the bravery, each of us as spiritual light leaders, if we have the bravery to not just take them from here to here, thanks for your 3 sessions, if we have the bravery to take them to there because we took ourselves to there, that's where we are divinely compensated handsomely as well, because we're not just doing this to people, we're doing that to more and more and more people. It's life-changing.
Yeah. I love it. I love the visualization and that connectedness to owning that as well, which is so, so powerful. And I know, Evelyn, that you also do amazing work with retreats and connect with amazing women as well. So tell us a little bit more about what else you do and how people can connect with you.
Yes, excellent. So I run a number of containers which are group containers. I do a lot of work that's private or VIP work as well. There's going to be different, I would say there's different amounts of me on like, hey, I've got another idea. Hey, here's a download. Here's something I received for you, which I've been doing all morning with my private clients. But I do have, I'm running next thing coming up is from August 11th to 14th, so very soon, I'm running a 4-day retreat on wealth regeneration at a cellular level. So I'm taking this phenomenal group of humans, pulling apart the puzzle, the absolute messy ball of twine that they have in terms of how they've recorded wealth in their bodies. And we're going to put it back together in incredibly productive, very healthy, super lucrative, hella profitable ways so that they have a completely brand new relationship with wealth and money. Because as soon as we clean that up in people, they're off and running. They're so inspired. They're self-motivated. They're self-led, and like they're just going for brand new heights. And they're by no means just trying to stay where their friends or their family had once put them. So that's, I think I've just got I've got 3 spots left, 3 different rooms, 3 spots left for that coming up on the 11th.
Amazing. And if people want to connect with you, how can they find you?
Instagram is almost my second home. So Instagram is easiest. It's empowerment_priestess. That's definitely the easiest. Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, it sounds so exciting. I think around the same times, I know we had chats about this, we're also running our beautiful summit. So I'm sure there'll be other opportunities for us to weave with you. But if you're listening in and you want to connect with Evelyn, please do. You can find her on Instagram. And folks, I know you've heard Flea and I talk about this beautiful summit that we've got coming up. You can also catch the beautiful lives on our Facebook and YouTube, and that's from the 10th to the 14th of August as well. And you can catch the replays if you connect with us as a VIP. The speakers, the content, the resources are so phenomenal. And it's exactly what Evelyn, Flea, and I have been talking about, this elevation of owning yourself and like we've all said, connecting with tribe, connecting with like-minded people, and putting yourself in those rooms, in those spaces that allow you to do what you're doing in your retreat, fully break down, restructure, re-template, and it can happen for people either in retreat spaces, in even listening to podcasts, if it does it a little bit to spark different ideas, at events, find events, find workshops, find podcasts, find books that allow you to start diving deeper, find people that resonate with you if you're on that awakening journey. So, you can be supported and know that you're not delusional, you know that you're not alone. And I suppose this is why Flea and I love Awæcnian Academy, because we're connecting with people like Evelyn and all the speakers that we've had, because we've got this wealth of experience and knowledge in a collective, in a tribe. Flea, are there any final readings from the beautiful cards that you had there, or any thoughts to share? What was that one?
Well, the 2 that I flashed earlier were the rest and rejuvenate, which we definitely spoke on. And that rest and rejuvenate is the wisdom that we get when we take the time to stop and listen to our bodies. Listen to the body, not your head, not what you're thinking, the body. The body tells us. And when we move on, which is when those right conditions present themselves. So you do need to untangle your ball, the knots and the mess. And I've got them, you've got them, everyone's got them. They're there. They present themselves when they need to. And when those conditions are right, those cycles will end and the world is our oyster. That's the universe, and everything that gets to be is for us. And I'd just like to say that for those people that are awakening and do come across some unusual information, some codes, some language, some things that are unusual, there's always going to be a first. And the first is always going to seem unusual. But when we embrace the fact that we are the first, like Einstein, like many geniuses that invent things, the greatness gets to be. And Evelyn so beautifully put, that tribe, that coming together, that growth, that amplifying people, what gets to come from that is more of what we want. And when we can trust that it's going to happen in our small surroundings, then it gets to grow around us, because we all get to grow. And that happens from those firsts.
They are so beautifully said. Oh, thank you so much, Evelyn, for your time. It has been such a pleasure this hour to connect with you, and so easeful and graceful to hear your wisdom come through. So thank you so much. And we'll see everybody next week. Bye, guys.